Hey guys, what's up? How are you? Today's topic is associated glands of digestion called as the digestive glands. The glands will come up with the secretions which are necessary for the digestion. Without these glands, there is no question of digestion, isn't it? So the digestive system contains two components. One is the alimentary canal, which we have discussed in the previous sections, and now the associated glands of digestion called as digestive glands. Clear? These digestive glands, some are present within the wall of the alimentary canal, called as gut here, and some are present outside the wall of alimentary canal. So what are present within the wall of alimentary canal? One is the Brunner's glands, present in the submucosa of duodenum, crypts of Langerhans, these two are the intestinal glands, and third one is called as gastric glands of the stomach, and intestinal glands, which constitutes the Brunner's glands and the crypts of Langerhans, are present within the wall of the alimentary canal. They are formed by the alimentary canal. Whereas some glands are present outside the wall of the alimentary canal but are associated with the digestive system. What are they? What is the salivary glands? Pancreas and liver. So this is a classification of digestive glands based on the within the wall and outside the wall. We'll be discussing one by one in detail today. Okay? So we should be starting with the salivary glands. Okay, bachon? Salivary glands. There are three types of salivary glands that are present in the human beings. One is a parotid. So here I am writing with a box type of this salivary gland, parotid salivary gland. Number one. Number two is submaxillary, also called as submandibular, and sublingual. Okay, so I'm writing here. These are the salivary glands. Three different types of salivary glands are present. Parotid salivary gland, submaxillary or submandibular, and the third type is called as sublingual salivary gland. Okay. Parotid salivary gland. The location of this parotid salivary gland. First of all, next one is location. And the type of cells present here. The location of parotid glands is below the pinna. Or inner surface of cheeks. Pinna means the external ear, isn't it? So below the pinna and inner surface of the cheeks, one to the right side, other to the left side, a pair of parotid salivary glands are present. These are the largest salivary glands. Of the three, which is the largest one? The parotid salivary gland is the largest one, and location is present below the pinna, that is pinna external ear or inner surface of the cheeks, that's the location, and they consist of serous cells. A type of cells called as serous cells are present. Okay, and next one is submaxillary or submandibular salivary glands. They are present in the angles of the lower jaw. There are two jaws, upper and lower jaw. At the angles of the lower jaw, submaxillary or submandibular salivary glands are present. They consist of serous cells plus mucous cells. Mucous cells, both are present here, whereas here only serous cells are there. And the third type of the sublingual salivary glands, they are present below the tongue. Below the tongue. Lingua means tongue. Sublingual means below the tongue. That's it. Okay. And they contain the serous cells plus mucous cells here also. Whereas parotid only serous cells, submaxillary serous cells and mucous cells here also, serous cells and mucous cells here. This is the location and these are the types of cells present here. Now these type of cells called as serous cells and mucous cells, they secrete the salivary juice. They secrete which one? Salivary juice. Salivary juice. Also called as saliva. So saliva, salivary juice is secreted by serous cells and mucous cells present in three different types of salivary glands. In human beings, three types are there, whereas in the human beings, the fourth type called as infraorbitals. Infraorbitals, salivary glands are absent. They are present only in the rabbit and other mammals, but here in the human beings the infraorbitals are absent. Clear? So the salivary juice. I told you that these secrete the salivary juice. The parotid salivary glands contribute almost here 25% of salivary juice. Parotid salivary glands contribute how much? 25%, and submaxillary salivary glands contribute almost roughly 70%, whereas sublingual just how much? 5%, just 5% is contributed by sublingual salivary glands. But size-wise, this parotid is the largest one and this is the smallest one. Size. With respect to the size, largest ones are the parotid, smallest ones are the sublingual, but contribution of the saliva is 70% of the saliva contribution is done by the submaxillary, only 5% by the sublingual and 25% by the parotid glands. And we secrete the salivary juice because of these cells. Parotid salivary gland releases the salivary juice into the buccal cavity because all these salivary glands, even though they are present outside the buccal cavity, they releases the saliva into the buccal cavity or oral cavity. How the question is how the parotid salivary gland releases the saliva into the buccal cavity? Through the help of a duct. To the help of a duct. All these releases, these salivary glands, they releases the saliva into the buccal cavity with the help of the ducts. The ducts present in the parotid glands are called as Stensen's duct. What is the duct present? Stensen's duct. Whereas submaxillary consists of here Wharton's duct. Wharton's duct. Whereas here sublingual consists of 15 to 20 smaller ducts called as Rivinus ducts. Rivinus ducts here. So Stensen's to the Stensen's duct, the parotid salivary glands releases the saliva into the buccal cavity, and by the help of this Wharton's duct, the submaxillary salivary gland releases the saliva into the buccal cavity, whereas the sublingual salivary gland releases the saliva into the buccal cavity with the help of 15 to 20 smaller ducts or ductules called as Rivinus ducts. All these constitutes the saliva, which is also called as the salivary juice. The salivary juice or saliva is secreted into the buccal cavity or oral cavity. Now, what's the composition? First of all, the pH of the saliva is 6.8. That is slightly acidic. Slightly acidic. Because 7 is a neutral point, 6.8 means it is slightly acidic. Now, what's the composition? Of course, it contains the water, mucus, large amounts of mucus, and some electrolytes are present. Number 2, certain enzymes are present. One is a lysozyme, enzyme, mucin, and kyalin. Kyalin is also called as salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. This is the composition. See here, large amounts of mucus is secreted. Why? Because the food has to be masticated, chewed in the buccal cavity itself. After chewing, it has to be lubricated, isn't it? Passed to the next part of the digestive system. It's possible because the mucus is secreted, which is helpful for the lubrication of the food passage, easy passage. That's the function of this mucus here. Now, of course, water is there and electrolytes are present. And lysozyme. What's a lysozyme? Because when we take the food, or water, it may contain certain bacteria, isn't it? The water and food may contain bacteria. So these bacteria must be killed. And that's the function of this lysozyme enzyme. Example, this lysozyme enzyme lyse and kill the bacteria, lyse the bacterial cell wall and kill the bacteria. Here, lysozyme is an enzyme which can lyse and kill the bacteria here. They lyse the bacterial cell wall and kill the bacteria here. That's the function of lysozyme. Next one is kaolin, also called as salivary amylase. 30% of starch digestion here. 30% of starch digestion is accomplished by salivary amylase. Amylase is a starch digesting enzyme. It's a polysaccharide. Starch is a polysaccharide. It is digested. 30% of starch digestion is accomplished by salivary amylase, which is also called as a kaolin within the mouth cavity itself here. So in the mouth cavity, both the chemical digestion occurs as well as the mechanical digestion occurs. The chemical digestion is occurring because of which one? The kaolin or salivary amylase. 30% of starch digestion is accomplished by salivary amylase or kaolin here. This is the composition of salivary glands. The salivary glands releases the salivary juice, also called as saliva, here. This is about the salivary glands. Which glands are absent in the human beings? Infraorbitals are absent in the human beings, which are present only in the rabbit and other mammals. Okay, that's all about the salivary glands. Next one is the gastric glands. So next one is gastric glands. Gastric means related with the stomach. The glands present in the stomach, they are called as gastric glands. Esophagus, here stomach, and this contains three parts: cardiac, fundic, and pyloric. So corresponding to these parts are the gastric glands. The mucosa layer of this gastric gland are folded inward. The mucosa of the gastric here, that is stomach. The mucosal wall of the stomach, this is the mucosal wall of the stomach, is folded inward into the numerous glands called as gastric glands. These are called as gastric rugae. Gastric rugae. The mucosa of the stomach is folded inward as gastric rugae. Among these gastric rugae, microscopic glands called as gastric glands are present. Gastric glands releases the gastric juice. Gastric juice in the stomach here, where the partial digestion of the food is accomplished in the stomach. Now, there are three types of gastric glands are present. What are these? Let's discuss now. One is the cardiac glands, here type. Secretion and function. Cardiac glands, pyloric glands, cardiac stomach. These cardiac glands correspond to the cardiac stomach, pyloric glands to the pyloric stomach, and third type is the oxyntic glands. also called as Fundic glands. So three different types of gastric glands are present in the human digestive system. One is the cardiac glands, pyloric glands, oxyntic glands, also called as the Fundic glands. Cardiac glands releases the mucus, and whose function is protection. Mucus, because in the stomach HCl is secreted, and HCl can not only kill bacteria but also damage the stomach wall. So large amounts of mucus must be secreted into the stomach, and that's a function of the cardiac glands, which releases the large amounts of mucus for the protection of the stomach wall from the excoriation, from the action of the HCl. Next one is pyloric glands. It also secretes the mucus along with the hormone called as gastrin. Mucus as usual protection, and gastrin is a hormone necessary for the secretion of the gastric juice. That's a gastrin hormone. Next one is the oxyntic glands, also called as Fundic glands, corresponding to the fundus part of the stomach. This oxyntic glands consist of three different types of cells called as mucous neck cells. Mucous neck cells, chief cells, or zymogen cells, or peptic cells. And third type is oxyntic cells or parietal cells. Parietal cells. So three different types of cells are present in the oxyntic glands or Fundic glands: mucous neck cells, chief cells or peptic cells, and or zymogen cells, and the third type is the oxyntic cells or parietal cells. Mucous neck cells, as the name indicates, it secretes the mucus, whereas the chief cells or peptic cells secretes the enzymes in the inactive form called as pepsinogen, prorenin. Okay. So mucous neck cells present in the oxyntic gland secretes the mucus for the protection, and pepsinogen and prorenin are the inactive enzymes or zymogens produced by the zymogen cells or chief cells or peptic cells. They are the protein digesting enzymes or proteolytic enzymes. Proteolytic enzymes. But they must be activated because the pepsinogen and prorenin are the zymogens. They are the inactive forms. They must be activated. Only then they become the protein digesting or proteolytic enzymes. Next one is the third one is the oxyntic cells, which are also called as the parietal cells. These oxyntic cells, they secrete the dilute form of HCl, hydrochloric acid, along with the Cassell's intrinsic factor. Cassell's intrinsic factor. So oxyntic cells or parietal cells secrete the dilute form of HCl or Cassell's intrinsic factor. So what is the function? Here I am writing HCl in the dilute form kills the bacteria present in the stomach, because some of the bacteria may pass to the stomach. These bacteria are killed by the help of the HCl here in the stomach. Next one is the Cassell's intrinsic factor. This is a factor present here, secreted here by the oxyntic cells. It is essential for the absorption of vitamin B12, that is cyanocobalamin. Only by this factor, vitamin B12 can be essentially and effectively absorbed and reabsorbed into the blood, otherwise no. Okay, that's the function of this Cassell's intrinsic factor. Clear, students? So in the absence of this Cassell's intrinsic factor, what happens? The vitamin B12 is not absorbed efficiently, and vitamin B12 is essential for the production of the RBC, erythrocytes, RBC, Due to erythropoiesis, what is required by the bone marrow? Vitamin B12 is also necessary. So, in the absence of this Cassell's intrinsic factor, this is not essentially absorbed. Then there is a deficiency here of RBC, and the patient suffers from a type of anemia called as pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia. Okay, it's a very important point. This point here. Okay, that's all about the gastric juice, gastric glands, and overall we have discussed the composition of gastric juice now. What's the composition of the gastric juice? Gastric juice is secreted by the gastric glands. Its pH is 0.9 to 1.8, that is highly acidic. Highly acidic nature. Because enzymes in the stomach are activated only when it is highly acidic. So 0.9 to 1.8 means highly acidic gastric juice because of the presence of the HCl. Okay, and what's the composition means? It contains the HCl, of course, Cassell's intrinsic factor, of course, and enzymes in the inactivated form called as proenzymes, pepsinogen, prorenin, etc. here. Prorenin, etc. And also called as the weak lipase called as gastric lipase is also present. Gastric lipase. Lipase is a lipolytic enzyme or fat digesting enzyme, but it is very weak form. It's not a strong form. So weak form of gastric lipase is also present here. Its pH is 0.9 to 1.8, which is highly acidic here. That's all about the gastric glands. Now we shall be discussing the intestinal glands. Intestinal glands. There are two types of intestinal glands out there. One is the Brunner's glands. Brunner's glands. The next one is the crypts of Leiberkuchen. Crypts of Leiberkuchen. Brunner's glands are formed by the submucosa of duodenum. Submucosa of duodenum or duodenum. I told you in the previous session that how the submucosa of duodenum forms the Brunner's glands. Next one is the crypts of Leiberkuchen. We were discussing the mucosa of small intestine. The mucosa of small intestine is now folded inward as a finger-shaped structure called as villi. Among these villas, here a crypts of Leiberkuchen is present here. This is called as crypt of Leiberkuchen. Both of them secretes for example, you take the Brunner's glands, secretes the mucus. Large amounts of mucus is formed, and the secretions of both is called as intestinal juice. Intestinal juice. The intestinal juice is also called as the succus entericus. Succus entericus, whose pH is 7.5 to 8.0. That is slightly alkaline. Slightly alkaline. Because the pH, neutral pH is 7. If it is 7.5 to 8.0 means slightly alkaline nature. And that's a here pH of intestinal juice, also called as succus entericus. The secretions of the intestinal glands called as Brunner's glands and crypts of Leiberkuchen are together called as succus entericus or intestinal juice here. Now, what is the composition of this intestinal juice? What's the composition? Composition of intestinal juice. One is it contains the protein digesting enzymes. Protein digesting enzymes or proteolytic enzymes. Protein digesting enzymes means proteolytic enzymes which can break the peptide bonds. Therefore, as protein digesting enzymes present are aminopeptidases, dipeptidases, tripeptidases. So these are the three protein digesting enzymes or proteolytic enzymes present in the sulcus entericus. Next one is the lipid or fat digesting enzymes called as intestinal lipase. Intestinal lipases are present here in the sulcus entericus intestinal juice. Next one is the carbohydrate digesting enzymes. Carbohydrate digesting enzymes are present here called as disaccharidases, which are three different types of disaccharidases are there. They are called as sucrase, maltase and lactase are the three different types of disaccharidases. The polysaccharides are broken down into the disaccharides and the disaccharides are broken down into the monosaccharides. The disaccharides are broken down into the monosaccharides with the help of the disaccharidases called as sucrase, maltase and lactase. For example, you take sucrase or invertase which converts the sucrose. Next one maltase converts the maltose. Next one lactase converts the lactose into the simpler forms called as monosaccharides. So these are called as three different types of disaccharidases called as sucrase or invertase, maltase and lactase. These are also present in the intestinal juice sulcus entericus. And these are the brush border enzymes. In the previous session we have discussed what are the brush border enzymes. The microvilli, isn't it? The columnar epithelial cells near the villi, they form the microvilli. The microvilli and the brush border, they form the brush border enzymes here, isn't it? Called as sucrase, maltase and lactase. Next one is the intestinal juice also contains the nucleic acid digesting enzymes called as nucleic acid digesting enzymes called as nucleosidases and nucleotidases. Nucleosidases and nucleotidases. Two different types of nucleic acid digesting enzymes are there, nucleosidases and nucleotidases. It also contains an enzyme activator called as enterokinase. It activates the inactive form of protein digesting enzymes into the activated forms. And that's why it's called as an enzyme activator, enterokinase, which converts the inactive form of enzymes into the active forms. That's why you like. Next one, at the base of the intestinal glands. Next point, base of intestinal glands consists of Paneth cells, which releases the lysozyme enzymes. At the base of the intestinal glands contains the Paneth cells, which releases the lysozyme enzyme. Lysozyme enzyme can lyse and kill the bacteria. By lysing the bacterial cell wall, they can kill the bacteria present. Here, this is about the intestinal glands here. Next one, the fourth type is a pancreas. Now, the fourth type is called as pancreas. Pancreas is the second largest gland of the human body. Second largest gland. The first largest gland is the liver, and the second largest gland is the pancreas. It is a mixed gland, or a composite gland, or a heterocrine gland. Why? Because it contains the exocrine part and endocrine part. So it's a mixed gland. Outer exocrine part and inner endocrine part constitutes by the islets of Langerhans, which secretes the insulin and glucagon. We'll be discussing under endocrine system not now. So we are discussing here only the exocrine part, not the endocrine part. The exocrine part is constituted by the acinine, pancreatic acinine. releases the pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice. Through the pancreatic duct into the duodenum. So the pancreatic juice, the pH of pancreatic juice is 8.4. That is highly alkaline. Highly alkaline. Whereas the pH of Sarcus centricus is slightly alkaline, 7.5 to 8.0. Pancreatic juice 8.4 pH, highly alkaline nature. Whereas gastric juice 0.9 to 1.8 and salivary juice 6.8, like this here. Okay, pancreatic juice 8.4, highly alkaline nature. And what is the composition of this pancreatic juice? Let's discuss. What is the composition? Composition of pancreatic juice. It contains a protein digesting enzymes or proteolytic enzymes in the form of procarboxypeptidases. Procarboxypeptidases. Trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen. Chymotrypsinogen. These are the protein digesting enzymes present in the inactive form. They must be activated. How they are activated? Just now I told you that the intestinal juice contains the enzyme activated called as enterokinase. Sarcus centricus intestinal juice contains the enzyme activated called as enterokinase, which converts the trypsinogen, for example. Trypsinogen is converted into trypsin in the presence of enterokinase here. This enterokinase is present in the intestinal juice. Next one, carbohydrate digesting enzymes. The carbohydrate digesting enzyme here is called as the pancreatic amylase. Pancreatic amylase. As different from salivary amylase. We were discussing a few minutes back. The salivary amylase called as the taurine is present. The taurine salivary amylase is responsible for 30% of starch digestion, whereas 70% almost is the responsibility of the pancreatic amylase. So it digests the starch. Starch digesting enzyme is the pancreatic amylase. Next one is the pancreatic lipase, that is lipid digesting enzyme or fat digesting enzyme is called as the pancreatic lipase. Pancreatic lipase is called as steatosin. Steatosin. And certain nucleic acid digesting enzymes are there. Nucleic acid. Nucleic acid digesting enzymes are present called as nucleases. The nucleases are of two different types. One is the DNase and RNase. DNase and RNase. DNase, DNA and RNase responsible for digesting of the RNAs. Okay, nucleases together called as the nucleases present in the pancreatic juice, and lipid digesting enzyme called as pancreatic lipase of steatosin is present. Carbohydrate or starch digesting enzyme called as pancreatic amylase is present. Proteolytic enzyme called as procarboxypeptidases, trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen are present in the inactive form. This is the composition of the pancreatic juice, which is highly alkaline with a pH of 8.4, secreted by the exocrine part called as acylae, because of which pancreas is called as a mixed or composite gland, because it contains the exocrine part as well as the endocrine part. This is about the pancreatic juice. Now, the pancreatic juice is secreted into the duodenum with the help of the pancreatic duct. So, pancreatic duct from the pancreas and common bile duct from the liver, both of them join to form an expanded portion called as hepatopancreatic ampulla or ampulla of water, which opens into which one? Duodenum. And it's operated by a sphincter muscle called as the sphincter of Oddi. In the next class, we will be discussing the liver. Okay, students, till then, have a great time, all of you. Bye, students.